Welcome to Private Stories, where people discover who they really are.
The cardiology wing of a small county hospital in rural Ohio looked every morning like a battlefield after a sleepless night, the air heavy with bleach, medication, and something harder to name, as if anxiety itself had soaked into the paint. Right after rounds, the staff gathered in the conference room, the hospital director Dr. Victor Hawthorne, the head of cardiology Dr. Eleanor Price, the night therapist, and a few junior doctors. On the agenda was a critical case, an elderly man from room 6, Mr. Sullivan, who had suffered a sudden drop in blood pressure and a dangerous arrhythmia overnight. I stood a little apart, holding the observation log to my chest. My name is Madison Clark. I am 25. I graduated from a medical college in Chicago with honors. I dream of becoming a physician someday, but for now I work as a nurse, learning everything I can. Last night had been brutal. Just after 2 a.m, Mr. Sullivan's skin turned ghost pale. The hand I held to check his pulse became clammy and cold, and the numbers on the monitor plunged so fast my stomach flipped. I did not hesitate for a second. I called the on-duty doctor and administered dopamine according to protocol. Within minutes the pressure began to climb back toward safety. Only when the physician took over observation did I finally sit down, but sleep never came. Unease clung to me until dawn. During the morning briefing, Dr. Price reported the incident while I kept my eyes lowered, avoiding the director's gaze. Dr. Hawthorne had a reputation carved from granite. Rumor said he once operated on a dying patient without anesthesia during his residency, and since then his word carried the weight of law. Suddenly his voice cut through the room. Which nurse was on duty last night? I stepped forward, my pulse hammering. I was, sir. Why was I not notified the moment Mr. Sullivan's pressure collapsed? His tone was sharp enough to slice. I followed protocol, administered medication, called the attending physician. The pressure stabilized within 5 minutes. I believed further escalation was unnecessary. Unnecessary, he echoed with a cold smile. What exactly is your head for, Ms. Clark? To decide when your superiors should sleep undisturbed. Heat rushed to my face. No one spoke. Finally Dr. Levin, the night doctor, ventured carefully. The crisis was managed in time and the patient. Do you consider concealing an emergency acceptable? The director snapped so loudly Levin fell silent. If the man had died, who would answer for it? Me. Your mistake would have been mine. His voice rose until it nearly became a shout. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. I am sorry, I truly tried. Trying is meaningless without judgment, he said with open contempt. Dismissed. When the door slammed behind him, the room fell into stunned silence. A young doctor cursed under his breath. What a tyrant! Why did he go after you like that? Hush, sighed senior nurse Margaret Doyle, my mentor. We know you did everything right, but arguing with him changes nothing. I lowered my head, feeling as if I had been publicly slapped. I had spent the entire night at that bedside, checking monitors, holding a frail hand, pushing medications, and now I was left with humiliation. For a moment I wanted to quit, to walk out and never come back. Margaret touched my shoulder gently. Hold on, sweetheart. He is harsh but brilliant. Do not carry hatred. How could I not? I whispered. You acted correctly. That is what matters. Your conscience is clear. I wiped my eyes and inhaled slowly. The shift was not over yet. Meanwhile, Dr. Hawthorne strode down the corridor toward the elevators, hunched slightly, muttering under his breath. He had not gone more than 60 feet when he stopped abruptly. His body swayed. His hand flew to his chest. The color drained from his face. His fingers trembled as if the blood had vanished from them. A small pill case slipped from his grip and clattered across the tile. He leaned against the wall, eyes unfocused, the world tilting around him. Another second and he slid down to the floor unconscious. At that exact moment I stepped out of the conference room to return the log to the nurse's station. I saw the white coat on the floor, the collapsed figure against the wall. Dr. Hawthorne. I ran. His pulse was faint, thread-like. Heart attack. Seconds mattered. Margaret, emergency, the director is down, I shouted while already acting. Training took over. I pulled nitroglycerin from his pocket, placed it under his tongue, checked his pressure. Critically low. I sprinted for oxygen and equipment as Margaret called a code. By the time the crash team arrived, I was doing everything I could to keep him alive, hands shaking, heart pounding. I will not let him die, I told myself. Even if he just humiliated me. Even then, his life was still a life. Dr. Hawthorne regained consciousness slowly. The resuscitation team reached him within minutes, but for a failing heart those minutes stretched into eternity. He was transferred to intensive care, pale as paper, an oxygen mask covering half his face, wires and tubes surrounding him like fragile lifelines. I stayed beside the bed long after no one required me to. Not because I had been ordered to, because I could not walk away. For the first time that shift I was not gripping a patient's wrist to count a pulse, yet it felt as though someone's life still rested in my hands. Outside the glass walls people rushed back and forth, but inside the room there was a near sacred quiet. I adjusted the foreline, smoothed the blanket. His eyelids fluttered open, unfocused at first, then settling on me. Madison, he rasped. I am here. Do not try to speak. Everything will be all right. His lips moved soundlessly behind the mask. I understood anyway. Thank you. Something tightened painfully in my chest. I took his hand without thinking. He did not pull away. I remained there until dawn, leaving only when another nurse relieved me. Walking down the corridor, I felt hollow and heavy at the same time. He was dying, and I had saved him. The man who had just crushed me in front of everyone. At the nurse's station I caught sight of my reflection in the dark window, pale face, shadows under my eyes, exhaustion carved into every feature. Strangely, I no longer cared what he had thought of me before. Let him wrestle with his own conscience now. By the next day the entire hospital buzzed with the news. Whispers followed me down hallways. Curious looks, respectful nods. I had somehow become the center of something almost heroic. But all I wanted was sleep. 3 days later he was moved to a private room. Visits were restricted. Then Margaret approached me quietly in the corridor. He asked to see you. Why? Said he has something important to tell you. And that he wants to look you in the eye when he says it. My heart started pounding like a nervous schoolgirl outside the principal's office. Still, I pushed the door open. He lay propped against pillows, thinner, drained, but unmistakably alive. On the bedside table sat a pear, a leather-bound book, a glass of water. He turned his head toward me. Madison Clark, he said softly, his voice still precise but stripped of its usual steel. I am listening, Dr. Hawthorne. He hesitated, lowered his eyes. I behaved disgracefully that morning. I shouted without understanding the situation. I said nothing. Please forgive me. And thank you. You saved my life. It is my job, I answered quietly. He nodded, though the admission clearly cost him something. For a man accustomed to always being right, humility was unfamiliar territory. The important thing is that you are recovering. Not entirely, he said with a faint crooked smile. Administration has forced me into medical leave, a rehabilitation center. They say I need rest and perspective. That sounds wise. He looked at me steadily. Have you been recognized yet? Recognized? For what you did? No. You will be. I made sure of it. You deserve it. He fell silent, staring at the ceiling. I left with a strange feeling, as if a heavy door had closed behind me and another had quietly opened ahead. A week later Human Resources called me in. Waiting there was a surprise. A certificate from the city administration honoring professionalism and courage. An offer to attend advanced training in Columbus. And a warm embrace from Dr. Price. We are proud of you, Maddie. Oh, and one more thing, she added with a knowing smile. Margaret Doyle has been appointed acting hospital director. Our department is entering a new chapter. And I realized the old era had truly ended. Life in cardiology shifted. Schedules changed. Patients came and went. But the way people looked at me was different. No longer indulgent glances at a young nurse. Now there was genuine respect. For the first time in 2 years, I felt seen as a professional, someone reliable. Even the doctors spoke to me differently. Dr. Ethan Cole, a young surgeon who had barely exchanged words with me before, now greeted me every morning. "Good morning, Ms. Clark," organized as always. At first the formal tone startled me, as if I were wearing clothes that did not quite fit. Eventually I grew into it. Margaret changed the least despite her promotion. Same straight posture, same brisk stride. Only now a director's badge gleamed on her chest. Yet her eyes held something new, responsibility mixed with quiet tension. Whenever we crossed paths, she would ask simply, "Holding up?" I was, though doubt still crept in during quiet moments. Being someone others relied on was not easy. One afternoon I overheard 2 orderlies whispering that I might soon be promoted to senior nurse. I just smiled. Rumors traveled through hospital walls faster than any virus. During a staff meeting, Margaret received a call and stepped outside. When she returned, her expression was tight. "Colleagues, important news. Dr. Hawthorne will return from rehabilitation next week." Silence swallowed the room. My chest tightened. Return. And then what? Later she came to me privately. "Do not worry, he will be different. And he specifically asked for you to assist with patients during his first days back." Me. Why? "He said he trusts you." It took time to absorb that. The man who once hurled words at me like nails now placed his trust in my hands. When he returned, I barely recognized him. Grayer, thinner, walking with a cane, dressed in a simple light shirt instead of his usual imposing suit. He moved slowly but with quiet determination. "Good morning, Ms. Clark," he said, stopping in front of me. "I am glad to see you." I nodded, unsure what to say. His face carried a kind, almost shy warmth. He truly had changed. "Shall we begin the day together?" October arrived wrapped in endless gray. The sky hung low over Cleveland, heavy with mist, puddles on the asphalt reflecting yellow leaves and the flashing lights of ambulances. The hospital moved through its usual rhythm, tense 1 hour, strangely quiet the next. But inside me something was shifting, swelling like fruit ready to fall from a branch. One evening, staying late at the station to review patient charts, I saw Margaret approaching with a folder clutched tightly in her hands. Her face looked troubled. "Maddie, you will not believe this. An inspection team just left." "From where?" "State Health Department." My stomach tightened. "What about?" "The Sullivan case. His granddaughter filed a complaint claiming he nearly died because no help was given." The words hit like ice water. "But I did everything by protocol." "We know that. But an official review has started." The next morning I was summoned to an administrative office. A stern man in his 50s sat behind the desk, expression neutral, voice precise. Why was the sudden drop in Mr. Sullivan's blood pressure at 3 a.m. not reported to the chief physician? Why was the decision handled without notification? I called the on-duty doctor and administered dopamine, according to protocol. The pressure stabilized. I believed further escalation unnecessary. "So you considered yourself authorized to decide who should be awakened?" I wanted to protest, to explain, but instead lowered my eyes. It felt like history repeating itself. Once again I was the one at fault. When I left the office, drained and hollow, Dr. Hawthorne was waiting in the corridor. "I am aware of the situation," he said quietly. "Allow me to speak with them." 5 minutes later he entered the room. I could not hear what he said. An hour later they called me back. Dr. Hawthorne confirmed there were no grounds to notify him that night. Furthermore, he expressed official appreciation for your actions. "The case is closed. No violations found." For a moment I could only nod. Then I walked out, not proud, not triumphant, just relieved beyond words. He had not only changed. He had stood up for me publicly. That evening I saw him by a window, staring at the autumn trees stripped nearly bare. "Thank you," I said softly. "For what?" "For not staying silent." "If I had remained silent, I would never forgive myself," he replied, and there was an honesty in his voice I had never heard before. We stood together without speaking. Leaves drifted down outside like old grievances finally letting go. The next morning at briefing he addressed the staff. "I would like to thank Madison Clark for her exceptional professionalism. I am appointing her acting senior nurse of the cardiology department. The decision is mine." The room froze. Even Margaret raised her eyebrows. "Me," I whispered. "Yes. I believe you are capable." I nodded slowly. "I will manage." Because I was no longer just a nurse afraid to make mistakes. I was someone who could decide. Someone who would not turn away. Someone trusted. A week passed in my new role. Senior nurse. The title sounded heavier, more adult, almost foreign. Each time I caught my reflection in the staff room mirror, I reminded myself this was not luck. It was a road I had walked step by step. Now my days were filled with schedules, reports, complaints, unexpected inspections. Sometimes I longed to escape back to simple bedside work, to pulses and 4 lines. But I handled it, or at least tried. Relationships in the department shifted. Those who once called me kid now asked for advice. Young nurses looked at me with respect. Even Dr. Cole joked about my new authority. "Seriousness suits you, Maddie. Just do not forget to smile or patients will start to fear you." I managed a tired grin. Smiling had indeed become harder. Often I caught myself thinking in the same strict categories Dr. Hawthorne once used. Each time I stopped. I did not want to become his copy. He seemed to observe silently, never interfering. Yet something deeper flickered in his gaze, gratitude perhaps, or regret. Then came the real test. A young woman was admitted, a college student named Lily Brooks, 20 years old. Diagnosis: severe tachyarrhythmia with unstable pressure. For 2 nights she suffered panic attacks, gasping for air, clutching her chest as monitors showed chaotic spikes. The night nurse panicked and called me. It was almost 3 in the morning. Without hesitation I returned to the hospital. Standing beside Lily's bed, a strange déjà vu washed over me. Only now I was not just the nurse on duty. I was responsible for the decision, and for those carrying it out. We worked quickly, performed an ECG, administered a minimal dose of prescribed medication. Her heart stumbled, then settled into rhythm. Within 20 minutes she slept peacefully. I sat at the edge of the bed listening to her steady breathing. Later, walking through the empty corridor, I noticed a familiar figure at the window. Dr. Hawthorne. "Could not sleep either?" he asked. "Patient crisis. Unstable pressure." The nurse called me. "She is stable now." He nodded. After a moment he said quietly, "I heard you handled it correctly as always. You are learning faster than I ever did." I looked at him. His face seemed softer, though the strength remained. "We are all learning," I replied. "Do you know what is hardest?" he said, resting a hand on the windowsill. "Learning to say I am sorry. Not after someone saves you. Just when you are wrong." We stood in silence. Before leaving he added, "You could become an excellent physician. Do not waste that chance." Then he walked away. That night I could not sleep. Not because he had admitted I was right. Because for the first time he spoke about my future, not my role. A future I had been afraid to imagine. In the morning I pulled an old notebook from my bag, the one where I scribbled dreams, shift notes, recipes. At the top of a blank page I wrote, "Preparation plan for medical school. Day 1. It was frightening. It would be difficult. But if I did not take this step, everything I had endured would mean nothing." That evening as I left through the main entrance, light snow was falling, the first of the season. Soft flakes spiraled under the streetlights. My phone rang. It was my mother. Honey, how are you? I am okay, Mom. Actually, I decided something. I am going to try to become a doctor. Behind me, the hospital doors closed. Ahead stretched a hard road. But it was mine.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Visit our channel for interesting and intriguing stories.